So, test, perfect. Hello and welcome to the August Patreon. So, today, sorry, today we will deal with look development. So, what you're currently seeing is like the scene that I build up, and we will play with camera, background, light, etc. I will give you, of course, also a breakdown for like the setup with the chair and those holding lines, thin lines, which is like pretty easily done. And yeah, currently we're looking at like the frame. I also think I posted it on Instagram. It's a Vasily chair from Marcel Breuer from the Bauhaus team. And yeah, it's a design classic in my opinion. And I think you can really do a nice of cool, a batch of really nice diaphragms with this chair. Of course, you can use other products, self-modeled products or objects. You can download, of course, chairs. I don't know, everything that you want, because this setup basically can deal with any geometry. But yeah, I will give you now like a breakdown, and then we'll start with camera, background, lighting, etc. Currently, this scene contains basically the chair, like our main object. Then we've got our holding strings. We have a background plate, nothing special. We can also deal with that later and play around with that. And then yeah, this is like the overall setup. What I did, I like imported the chair here, nothing special. Imported it, split it up in his parts. So basically the ladder part, the bolt parts, and the frame from the chair, and assigned 3 different materials. So one material with leather, one with bolts, and one with a metallic frame material, and then just transformed it. And here, this is like basically the whole magic here. I start with a sphere. So when you have like an input, so for example a box, and get a sphere and pipe that into the bounding source, you will basically create a bounding box now with the sphere. For example, let's just delete that and go back to here. So I've got now like the chair here, and this is my bounding box. I enlarged it massively. So this is now, so like, I don't know, what was the scale, 5 times? Yeah, 5 times here. And then I clip those away. So the only thing I got left is like a band around the chair, so I can reference like the chair again. And then scattered like 15 points on it, and enumerated those. And I want to use like the Vasily chair for the ray at the minimum distance. And then I just want to ray those points onto the chair. Then I used the original points with an ID attribute on the points, merge them together. So now we've got like, wait, let me just make that a little bit bigger. Now I got like 2 pair of points, one scattered on the spherical or round ribbon, and the other points are basically sitting on the chair. And what I then can do, let's get those back to default. What I then can do is just place an add by group, by attribute, and insert the ID attribute, and we will get a connection between those points. The cool thing is, what we can now do, we can basically like grow the sphere, we can shrink the sphere, whatever we want to create new versions. Or what we can do is like play around with the global seed, play around with the relax iteration, play with the number of points. So they're like, yeah, basically endless possibilities what you can do. You can change the shape, you can introduce noise, and so on and so on. So I settled here for like 15 points. I resampled those and created like a simple sweep. And what I also did, I got copied the points out and copied spheres on the ray points. And what I did then, just get like a VDB from the chair, combine those, so we've got left with like a rough difference. Combine those with a VDB from polygons from our sticks or our lines. Smooth that out, then you will get something like this. Of course, this is not perfect, you can refine this. And then, yeah, just on exercise remeasure. Oh no, it's on top of here. No problem. Just remeasure. Of course, you can also use like the normal remesh node. I think that would also do a good job. I used the exercise remeasure here. You can also try out the instant meshes. Let's just try that out. And yeah, you can see then here the no edit node. You can then see here the final example. Of course, you can just leave it and let it be. Let's just use, I think it's called labs instant meshes. Can also use that. Let's have a look. Let's go for, I don't know, what was the point count? 500,000. Let's try it and see how that will look. It takes a little bit of time. But yeah, you can remesh it. You can, of course, come up with other ideas what you could do. You can convert the lines, for example, into vellum hair and then play around with that. That's fully up to you. Yeah, that's really good geometry right there. So you can also, for example, use the instant meshes. After that, I smoothed it a little bit and applied our material node and merged it all together. And that's like basically the whole thing. So what I did for Instagram was, for example, let's just deal with the style frames. What I did in one frame, let's just save it again, start our render engine, and let's move that on here. What I did, for example, was a combination of, I think, 2 dome lights, and to like tap to unblur. I think, I don't know if it's a common thing, but I really liked it and just did it. Why not? Yeah, you can like heavily increase here the blur, or the COC, the circle of confusion, the radius, to get like extremely depth of field, which I think would probably never possible with our real world camera lenses, sensors, etc., f-stops. But yeah, now we have on the frame a COC radius of like 10. And of course, that's like really high. So if we let that render for like a few seconds here, and we'll just get this for a frame and then 0 basically for another frame. You can now tap it basically on your Instagram story and make it unblur if you want that. And I also really like to like experiment with this high depth of field, because why not? This is like the cool thing. You get some like really nice abstract looking blur fields. Of course, you can also do that with other setups if you want that. So that's also like a nice thing to do. And then yeah, just play with different camera angles. So for example, what I did, I think it was the second camera. Let's go back here to, I think this was 0.01. For the second camera, I used a fisheye lens, or like a really, really wide angle lens. So for example, 16 millimeters. And that's like the cool thing. So let's start with a camera. Let's just copy the camera here. And let's go into a square aspect ratio. Why not? Let's just use an Instagram square. Woohoo! And let's start a render. This is camera 5. Refresh it. And now we've got a square aspect ratio. And yeah, that's not nice here, but let's just live with it. And lock the camera. And now we can start. So for example, this is like a 60mm extremely wide angle lens. What you also could do is like an 8mm, like more of a fisheye lens. And yeah, you can get like extremely close to it and make some really highly distorted images if you want to. And I sometimes like really like it. Of course, you can also turn around the camera a little bit. To see how the perspective can basically look like. Let's just go back here. Okay. So this would be like a frame with a high aspect. No, not aspect, with a pretty low focal length. For example, like 8mm. And now you can see if you want to get like a detail shot, you need to really zoom in. And then, for example, we've got a depth of field of 0.01, sorry. And we can lower that, for example, to get a little bit more into focus. And then you can make this like really, really outrageous wide angle shot. Let me just do one thing, and I want to blur a little bit the metal from the wires. I want to use like 0.25 on the roughness. I think that looks a little bit better. And you could use that for a shot. Or what I also really liked is like, yeah, just go out a little bit. Of course, then you need to make those wires longer because you got a huge field of view. But you can do that easily, of course. It's Houdini. It's procedural. Another thing what I really like, we will deal with light shortly, is to get like a more compressive lens, so like a higher focal length. For example, a 200mm lens. Let's just get that into focus. And now you got like a really compressed view of the image, which also can be cool, of course. Now for the light. This is currently fully HDR light, of course, just to get quick renders. But what I want to do now is to do like a few custom setups. So we've got a background. Maybe you noticed that. We've got a background. This such hugely basically a huge basic background. It's basically a plane, and that's it. The nice thing is what we can do. We've got now our camera. Let's just call this R&D here. We've got our R&D camera, and let's introduce a light. So Let's call this RS light. Let's call it gobo, because I will insert a gobo main 001. I want a gobo texture. Let's just get a texture here. I think this one should be fully fine. And when we start render, of course, you get something like this. Could look cool, I don't know. Because the light, yeah, will default, will be placed in the center by default. What we can do, you can go to no cam, then to look through light, and we want a RS light gobo main 001. Now we're basically viewing our viewport through the light. The cool thing is what you can do now, you can lock like the camera or light, and then you can zoom out and play with the light. Currently we've got a square light, so let's just zoom out one time. And what I want to do, I want to change that to like a circle. And I want to boost the exposure a little bit. And now you can already see we've got a side light. With the side light is currently a spread of 1, so you basically don't get any harsh light. And with that, what we can do, we can adjust like the size. So if we want like a softer light source, make it bigger. Now we can also dial down, for example, our exposure setting. And yeah, you can see we've got one light, we've got the background, which is really simple. What we can do, we can move the background a little bit back. Let's just get a transform node and move it a little bit further away. And what you also can see, of course, that the background is linked. When we move the background further away, of course, less photons or less light will reach the background. So you can also move and play with the background, how it will look like. Of course, you can like really move it into distance and then use another light, what we can do shortly, to light up the background to get a given separation. So when we copy that light here, and what I want to do, let's call this BG for background. Let's just reset quickly this one. And what I want to do, I want to move it back. For example, like this. And I want to make it wider. So let's make it wider. And when we restart the render, you will see nothing. Because we need to get let's just boost it up. Oh, I think it's in the wrong direction. Nice job, Tim. We don't need to boost it, or maybe we need. Now you can see we've got a background, and the background currently got a material, just really basic material, like basically black with 0.85 roughness. And now the cool thing is we can use that light to introduce a gradient, for example, on our background. Of course, it don't need to be from top to bottom or from bottom to top. You can do it diagonally, you can do it from left to right, etc. Another thing is you can make a colored background. For example, you can adjust the light. So color multiplier, let's get some bluish tones here. Some like baby blue, I don't know. And then adjust the light a little bit. And you can see we've now got a pretty nice, decent looking frame. And that's just 2 lights. what we can do now, for example, deactivate that. You can see a little bit of light spill from our background, which is fine. And what we can do now, we can introduce like a second light. So we've got currently our main light. Why not use like a complementary light? So for example, this is white and we've got a blue background. Why not use, for example, a reddish secondary light? Let's just go to the back here. And what I want to do, go to texture, adjust, color multiplier, choose red. And let's desaturate that a little bit. And of course we can play with the exposure. Let's just get 2 stops away. And for example, for me the background is maybe a little bit too bright, so we can dial back 1 exposure. And now you have something like that. Of course you can then start like bucket rendering and to get like a better view for the render. And now you can see we've got our main light from the left side and we've got our right light or our rim light from a nice 45-degree maybe angle from the back, and we will fill the scene with red light, and we've got our bluish tone in the background. What you can do now, of course, this is currently like soft light. We can turn it off completely. So let's just only use our first light and make that hard. So this is like now a hard light, and let's introduce the background. And you can see we've got this really harsh looking shadow on here from the chair. And also a little bit, of course, from the gobo texture. Let's play with that a little bit. Maybe we could even multiply that. Of course, this will color like the whole scene. I think it looks cool if you got like a pretty high aggressive contrast range in your image. It's not for everyone. What you can do also is to play a little bit with the color temperature. So you can go, for example, like a warmish tone of light, or you can go for a coldish tone of light. You can also do that on your adjust level. Just maybe select orange and go like really desaturated. And then, of course, what you also can do, go to the bluish tones. And now you've got like a colder tone for your light. This is that. What's also pretty cool, I think, if you deactivate like your main light and only concentrate on the background light and just overexpose that, and you've got like a really nice silhouette lighting. I think the nice thing of that is you can still get, for example, a shot. I think it was 4. Let's go to 4. You can still have like detail in it because the background will reflect a little bit of light back to the camera. And yeah, you can see the metal here. You can see a little bit of leather. And you got this nice silhouette shot, which is also pretty cool, I think. Then of course another thing, let's disable all of those and play with an HDR. Those are HDRs, you can just download them. For example, HDR Haven. They got like really nice HDRs. For example, currently 572. And the cool thing is you can sort them for like indoor. Oh, I got my ad blocker on. I'm sorry, HDR Haven. Yeah, you can sort those. I think for like product renderers, of course you can try out every HDRI. Of course, the studio setups are really nice for product renderings, photography, etc. Yeah, so you can deal with those. And yeah, that's, for example, like the other lighting method. If you want like a quick style frame, use an HDRI map. The cool thing is you can then combine that, for example, an HDRI plus our background light, because why not? So I think to combine then those is like really powerful and nice to do if you play around with those. Whoops, that was way too bright. Yeah, to play around with those, and of course with camera angles. So play around with the focal length, with depth of field, and so on. For example, we've got like the camera 4. Let's just increase, or let's firstly pick a focus point, and then we can increase, for example, our CSG radius. You can also dial in different bokeh images if you want to. You can play with the aspect, so basically like the bokeh aspect from an anamorphic lens. So on an anamorphic lens, the bokeh is stretched because of the recording process, because you will like squeeze the image, and later you will de-squeeze it, and you will get this oval shaped bokeh. And yeah, you can play around with that here too, to introduce like fake movement, which is also pretty cool, I think, and play around with that. And yes, let's look at a time. Okay, nice. So what we can do, let's just get another. Oh, I think that was, yes. Let's just deactivate the quad remeasure. And I did one scatter with like, no, that was not the amount. I think that was the amount, with a pretty huge amount of the wires. And I think I did used adaptivity. Let's have a look at the poly count. I think it was not that high, but let's have a look. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, we can use a little bit of adaptivity. Maybe 0.05. I think that should do a nice job. Of course, the outcome of this moving will be a little bit different, but that's fine. Maybe we can even dial it a little bit higher, the adaptivity, but yeah. Yeah, yes. Yes. Let's dial it, I don't know, 0.15. I think that should be fine to get like, yeah, 3 million. That's fully fine. Let's just recalculate the blur. So, hello, here we are back after a little Houdini crash. And yeah, what I just did, I played around with the amount of our wire thingies connecting cylinders, smoothed out things. And yeah, this is just for another inspirational push or forward. Play around with those. So I see like a lot of style frames from different Patreons, etc. Just to basically deal with one setup, and then the Patreons just rebuild it, and that's the frame, and it basically looks exactly the same, which is cool, of course. You understand the process of doing it, etc. But yeah, just try it out, please, and play around with then setups, light, etc. Yeah, I hope you liked this little look dev tutorial. I'm currently on the next Patreon for next month, so this will be then September. And in the end of September, I will drop the next Patreon, which will be a collaboration with another 3D designer, Max from Instagram, Max Schwinger. I think you know him. He's from Man vs. Machine. And we'll do a Patreon collab. And yeah, I'm looking forward for that. Will be exciting. Woohoo! And yeah, I hope you have a great day and enjoy this Patreon round. See you in the next one.